Hey everyone, welcome to episode 4, I think, of our podcast, Both Keys at the Same Time. I'm back again with Daisan, who has now managed to catch up on Cobra Kai, which I guess we can talk about in a bit. But I guess before we get into that, Daisan, you want to say hello?
Yeah, hey everybody. Nice to see you again, mate. Yeah, let's get going. All good. How are you?
I'm all right, trying to do many different things at the same time. But so you finished season 6 of Cobra Kai, right? What did you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it actually. Overall, I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. Left a sort of, do you know what? It left a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. I was kind of happy that it tied everything up and that the series finished. I don't think it's perfect by any sort of means, stretch of the imagination. It's there's, I think overall there were too many characters and stories to tie up, but they did tie them up all at the end, which I was happy about. Like I'm
Yeah, it
kind
got
of
a
old
bit.
fashioned. I kind of like that, being a kid and like actually having an end to everything and everything was sorted out and fine. However quickly it was for a lot of the characters. So like I said, that fundamentally there were too many characters to sort out.
Yeah, it got a bit Game of Thrones-esque in the end, and I agree with you. I like the things being tied up. I like them to try and finalize everything. Some of the things I thought were tied up, as you said, very quickly, maybe a throwaway line here or there, or resolving things in a much quicker way. But I'm quite glad the series ended with Johnny fighting, because let's be honest, Ralph Macchio can't really fight.
No, I mean, he was passable when he was young, but
Yeah, he
now
pulled it
he's all
off.
right. You know, he's old as well.
He pulled
Yeah.
it off okay when he was young,
Yeah.
but I think the older he gets, the more crazy he gets. What did you think of the AI Miyagi in his dreams? Because Daniel has these weird ass dreams that basically throw back to the old films.
Yeah, it was all right. I didn't. It was sort of a bit pointless, wasn't it?
Yep.
It's in one way. Like I wasn't sure what they were trying to achieve, other than. Do you know what the problem with? Okay, let me go back a bit. It's really I thought about this whilst I was watching it, and I thought, oh, it sort of missed me, or went past me, because it's called Cobra Kai and it's about Johnny.
Yeah,
Really?
that was a point I was thinking towards
Like,
the end. It's really about Johnny and Miguel, and Johnny Lawrence's redemption arc, how he changed
yeah,
into a bigger
exactly.
character.
And Johnny's whole story was really, really good. And like the clues in the name, right, but we don't think about it. But it was Cobra Kai. It was about him, and him like kind of and he was definitely the best character. I always enjoyed watching William Zabka. He's funny, right? And Johnny, the character itself, is just brilliant.
Well, they really
Whereas,
played into the sort of out of touch with technology and wokeness Neanderthal concept in the first few seasons.
yeah, which was brilliant.
But he never really lost it, which was great, I thought.
But it's really clever in a way, because you know what? Even in that very final bit of Karate Kid Part 1, it's like you realise that actually Johnny's not a bad guy.
Yeah, when he
Like,
says, "You're all right, LaRusso."
that very last bit, because he could sow that emotion of like, you're all right, you know, you're all right, man, you deserve this. Like, and I was thinking, actually, you can see that in Johnny. Like, Dutch was far more of an idiot in some ways than.
Yeah, Dutch was the firebrand guy that you have with you, just who likes to fight anyone. Dutch was the Conor McGregor of the Karate Kid series.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a really nice story arc for Johnny Action. I thought that was really nice overall, and actually, the whole season makes the whole series kind of good. I think Daniel's character was just stunted in the whole thing. I thought, and that kind of makes sense because he finished his story arc in the films.
Yeah, there was a lot further for him to go, but I do think they did take it in a way where, I mean, it's nice that they got both of them to realize that the other style had its merits, and really perhaps the
Yes.
best was a combination of both styles being offensive and defensive, and Daniel, I guess, being magnanimous enough to admit that was pretty cool.
Yeah, what I liked, I'll tell you what I did like about Daniel in this was actually right at the end when he wore the Cobra Kai uniform. I thought, actually, that shows a big change for him, and him like accepting things and,
Yeah,
you know, changing actually. So I thought that part of him was really, really good, I thought, in the end. And like an end. And what I liked about it, the whole series, was that it wasn't a whole like a revivification of like Miyagi-Do and him, right? It was the whole thing changing, which I thought was really, really good.
Yeah. But just out of that, right? I don't know if you're aware, but Ralph Macchio had a lot of discussions with the producers about whether he was going to wear the black gi or not. And initially he said no, but I think they talked him around into wearing it. And as you said, I think it had a much bigger impact to the end where you see Daniel come out in it, because he's been so, I guess, laser focused, rigid on Miyagi-Do the whole way, right? That it's good to see him grow a little bit to understand the merits of what Johnny was doing.
And actually, when you really think about it, there wasn't really any point where Mr. Miyagi ever called it Miyagi-Do karate, right? Like it wasn't.
Yeah, this is his family's karate. I think Daniel called it
like
Miyagi-Do.
what he learned.
It's just karate. It's just what he learned.
Yeah, and actually, Daniel had become sort of ossified in something, whereas Mr. Miyagi never was.
Yeah.
Like actually, a lot of his responses to Daniel, but you can sort of feed that back into Daniel's character, as in he was quite rigid and like kind of it's this and it's that, it's black and it's white.
Yeah.
Whereas Miyagi's character is always like, just deal with the situation at hand, right? Yeah. It is what it is. It's not that, it doesn't matter. You know, lots of things just don't matter. Just do the main thing. And I think that was sort of I don't know if that was a conscious parallel or not, but it sort of worked out in the end.
Yeah.
Like I said, my main issue was that there were too many, like, really, what was the point of Sam and, like, you know, Robbie, really? After that first couple of seasons, there were just too many of them to deal with. I think
there were a lot of characters.
And the thing is, they were good characters, right? Like, I didn't dislike anyone. Like, I liked Robbie. I quite like Sam's character. But then you've got Hawk and Dimitri, and they were all kind of like quite likable characters. So,
well, then you've got Devon and Tori, and you know, you've got
Kenny
as well, and who's the son? What's his name?
Anthony,
yeah. So there is a lot of them there. Just go back to Miyagi's karate, because obviously he learned it from his father. So I might go back and rewatch Karate Kid 2 to see if Sato had called it any particular thing. Oh, he just named it after himself.
I don't think he did. You have to look at his dojo name or something.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah, I might go back and look at his dojo name.
I think there was like a poster, right? There was a poster in Karate Kid 2.
Learn karate with Sato
in it.
Yeah.
Sato was a badass, man. I quite liked him.
He was one of my favorite characters in all the series. Just the way he talked. You betray me. He basically spoke like Shao Kahn. That was his voice throughout Karate Kid 2. Miyagi, you fight me or you are coward. Just the gravel in his voice.
Listen, sorry, I'm going to put it in there. For those that don't know, please watch Mortal Kombat, the TV series.
Oh, yeah.
Conquest.
I did the video on it.
Right? Yeah. You're going to see the ultimate villain have the ultimate victory in that.
Yeah.
Don't spoiler alert yourself. Shao Kahn is like the ultimate gangster in that.
He is. But I guess going back to the characters, right? As you said, there are too many of them. One thing I thought was amazing in this final part of the season was Johnny's breakdown in front of Kreese. I didn't think Kreese's turn was good. I thought Kreese turning into a good guy by the end was a bit too much for me. But Johnny's breakdown in front of Kreese and what those events did to him was probably the best acting in the series for me.
Yeah, it was. I was really happy with that, actually. I thought that was really good because the whole series is a bit sort of not fantastical. It's like a bit over the top and a bit camp, but actually that was really real. And it kind of, you kind of get Johnny as in like why he is how he is and what he was. And I think Kreese just suddenly changing was one thing, but that scene made it okay for me because that was that unsaid love that Kreese had for him, which they tried to address, and he tried to say, "Oh, I've gotten rid of it." But as in, you always wondered why someone like Kreese would be a teacher to children in his own way, if that makes sense, as opposed to just a raw soldier. Do you see what I mean? Like, why did he keep coming back to teaching these young kids Cobra Kai or whatever? So yeah, I know what you mean. It was a bit too quick, and the whole interaction with Silver and everything was a bit.
Well,
it could have been better, I think.
I mean, the end fight on the boat was a bit ridiculous for me. There was talk at one point of having Silver survive and have him see the cover of a magazine where he hand reaches for it, saying, "Is Terry Silver still alive?" But yeah, it was an interesting way they chose to end it. But yeah, I thought, as you said, Kreese talking to Johnny was amazing. His turn up to that point, again, didn't really work pretty well for me at all. I mean, it was kind of half faked in a way. And then, of course, who was the lady that fell in love with Chosen? What was Kreese's student?
Kim.
Yeah, Master Kim. Just murders her teacher. Just outright murders him to take over the mantle of the head instructor.
Yeah, that was a bit clunky. I didn't quite understand that. Like, I don't think that was necessary.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, it was quite weird.
Sort of, it didn't really fully click with her character as well. Like it didn't.
Yeah, it was a bit of a leap for her, being so deferential to him. So sycophantic in a way, and then all of a sudden saying, "Well, if I really want to get what I want, I'm going to have to kill the person I've revered my whole life, even though he hasn't treated me the best." But still, I thought she had poisoned Kreese at one point when she gave him the tea. I didn't know if she was. I thought she was going to kill him, but yeah, it was interesting.
But I actually, on a separate point, I actually really liked her. Like, she was like that. Like, you go back. Like, if you went back in time to like when we were kids or even before, how they would portray like an evil Asian like woman villainess, it's just her. Like everything about her face, the haircut, her expressions, the way she talked, it was like this anachronistic sort of representation, but I loved it. And I think, by the way, I think this would be a wicked spin-off, like The Adventures of Chosen and Kim. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be even better than my Vietnam show about Silver and Kreese that we wanted to do. Called Party to.
Yeah, that's true. Chosen, though, he was truly brilliant in this scene. He's one of the best.
Legendary.
Legend in it. It's like so funny.
Yeah, it's brilliantly done. So what did you think of the fact that the first part of the season alluded to a lot of the best references, but in the end they kind of went for like a Rocky montage and a Rocky scene?
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the Rocky bit, to be honest. It was all right,
but cheesy, right?
I kind of get where they're coming from. I think they're trying to. That's probably something that maybe that they would have thought Johnny would identify with.
Yeah,
in some sense, but
he was talking about best the whole of the first season, right? The whole of the first season.
And actually, it could have been like how they could have played that out is perhaps not with the kids so much, but if they had all the masters fighting, I think that would have worked. Like, like, I don't know, Johnny just letting Daehan go, like that sort of, or Wolf go, when he would have been the Tommy and the Daehan characters, like, or he would have even worked with Daniel or something, but something like that would have been really, really cool. But I don't think, do you know what? I kind of get the fact that outside of fans, I don't think a lot of people know about Best of the Best, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think Viking Samurai did a video on it the other day, and it's obviously, as you know, people can maybe tell, it's one of our favorite films. And the thing about the Best that was amazing is it came out at a time when Hong Kong was dominating the martial arts genre and martial arts cinema, and this is an American-made film that was done so well, and had so much impact on us and whoever saw it, that it kind of blew us all away. I guess when we saw it, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. Look, Best of the Best is still amazing. It's still good.
And as you said, if they did it, then Ralph Macchio would have to be the chump Alexander Grady character, because Johnny Johnny has to be
the Eric Roberts guy.
Tommy.
Yeah. What's his name?
Yeah, Eric Roberts. Alexander Grady.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alexander Grady, Portland, Oregon.
Oh yeah. No, sorry, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Tommy and Alex.
Yeah, Alex. Yeah, he'd have to be Alex. No, you're right. Sorry, I got that mixed up. Yeah, and he'd have to be. Yeah, Johnny would be Tommy. Yeah, you're right.
Because I thought at one point, the guy that was running things for the Sekai Taikai.
Dude. Yeah, oh my god, that guy. You know what? I really like Gunther, but I just wished he wouldn't just every 5 seconds. I was like, can you just not say Sekai?
Say normally.
All right.
No, I thought he might have been a shout out to Brackus from Best of the Best too, because he's got that kind of lumbering physique.
True.
Yeah, but no, they didn't go there. They went with the Rocky montage. I think they tried to go with some Rocky-esque music that didn't quite work for me. So
it didn't quite work. Yeah, it wasn't quite. Yeah, it was just all a bit awkward, I thought.
Yeah, it doesn't hit that.
What was I thinking? I was like, I liked. Like I said, I think they did it. They've actually did the series very, very well for a nostalgic series.
Oh, it's amazing.
They didn't like try and make it something it wasn't. They didn't try and make it cool. They made it how it was, and they tied everything up. So because of that, I was really happy with it. Like, it's done now, and it's all good. Interestingly, if you see this Karate Kid Legends come out, I think what I'm hoping is that you'll see Daniel become a bit more teacher-like, a bit more sensei-like in that one. Like, as in older, he's been through all of this now, and actually be more of a mentor. Because I think in this, he wasn't very sensei-like in many, many ways. He was still like Daniel fighting. You know what I mean?
I mean, he was
annoyed and
he was whine yell, wasn't he? He was having nightmares about what happened. He was questioning Miyagi. He was walking around Barcelona in these streets that supposedly looked dangerous. It was pretty
quite nice actually.
Exactly, it looked pretty pleasant to live in. So he was, as you said, he wasn't really very sensei-like. He was being very much like he was whining from the first few films. Now, I was going to ask you a question.
I did like that bit when he cussed Silver, though.
Yeah, that was good.
That was good.
Getting his revenge on Silver was pretty good. Now, I was going to ask you, up to the point where Johnny fights Sensei Wolf, clearly he shouldn't have a chance.
What do you think of Wolf?
I was going to say, because Louis Tan is a really great martial artist, and I've heard him speak, and I don't know what accent he was trying to do sometimes.
Where's he from originally? Where's he from?
So he's from the US and Singapore, I think, and maybe spent a bit of time in the UK.
Right, for those who don't know, we sort of grew up in sort of near East London-ish, stroke Essex, Movie Man and I, and actually that was the sort of accent, but he grew up with.
He didn't quite pull it off.
He did it, but it really wasn't. It was like it was a bit hammy and a bit sort of.
It was a bit like Jason Statham when he was drunk. Yeah. But I was going to ask you about him.
It was the F's instead of the T's. It goes, is that what we're going to do with him?
Yeah, with him.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, speaking of accents, I do miss the London accent. I watched some. A lad Bible was having Danny Dyer rate posh food snacks, and immediately he opens one up and he goes, so what's his bollocks then? And I was just thinking, that's the kind of banter that I miss. That's the kind of London humor that I miss. But no, Mr. Wolf, Sensei Wolf, he was so powerful in the first few parts of the season, and even at the end when it was that 3-point rubbish again, to have the same as the tournament of Karate Kid 3, he's doing all these flowery stances and kata or whatever, and then he just runs towards Johnny. Now, I thought what would have been cool would be Johnny.
Is if he did the crane kick.
Yeah, exactly.
100% he should have crane kicked him.
Should have crane kicked Wolf's ass.
In fact, if it was me, like, I wouldn't have done the kata, but I would have done like the drum technique for 1 point and finished it off with the crane kick.
Yeah.
That would have been wicked.
That would have been brilliant. Yeah, exactly. But I thought,
at
again,
the end of the day, if you do it correctly, no can defense.
Yeah. I did think, though, that Wolf was, again, written to be so powerful, and then that final fight, he just disappeared. All of his abilities just went based on the writing.
Yeah, and it's sort of fair enough, because he would have just destroyed Johnny.
He should have, he should have destroyed Johnny. Exactly.
And also, the other thing was he didn't pull out his special move. You know, that special whatever kick. You know, when whatever that was called, when he does that kick into that guy's shoulder. Like, he should have done that, and then Johnny should have countered that. I thought that. So, you know, some little things that I think could have been better. And I get it. They didn't. I suppose they didn't do it because they didn't want it to be cheesy. But the whole series is cheesy. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
but Lewis Tan is a great martial artist, and I mean, I don't know if you saw the Mortal Kombat reboot. He was in that. He wasn't. I think he was just okay in that. That's why they're doing it again. But his fighting is really good, and he's been in a few films and a few shows where he's demonstrated his ability. So he's leaps above everyone on that show. Yeah, I thought.
But again, it's how do you fit everything in? There's him. There's Silver. There's Kreese. There's, like, you know,
all of the Dragons team as well. What do you say?
You know, the Pai Mei wannabe. You know,
yeah, there's a lot of them.
Who I thought was quite good, actually. Like, just to, you know, what's it called? Kreese's sensei. They could have made more of him. Like, but you know.
So overall, pretty enjoyable. Good ending of the show, as we said. Could have
good ending of the show. I'm happy
tied
with
up things a bit
better. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I'm happy with it too. So, have you seen any of Daredevil Born Again yet?
I have not.
Okay. Right, we'll save that for another show.
Spoiler on that for me.
Yeah, I'm not spoiling anything on that for you.
I desperately want it to not be disappointing.
Yeah, I'm not going to say too much about it. I will say one thing, though, that the trailer sort of gave away the direction they were going for. And interestingly, the creative team that was behind it were initially fired after like 5 episodes. They brought a brand new team in to change the style and the tone for Disney. So they had to rewrite a lot, reshoot a lot. But it's going to be interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Disney just, I don't know. It's just the fact that it's Disney that I haven't got a huge amount of faith in a lot of. I just think they're just going to have to work its way out, you know?
Well, there's all this talk of the new Rey Star Wars trilogy, and we've got Andor Season 2 coming up, and there's talk of other things. But one thing that was really interesting, I don't know if you've seen, there's been a lot of, I guess, online videos about this. So just before George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney, he was trying to do a TV show about the underworld on Coruscant. And apparently there were...
like the levels. What's it called, you know, in Clone Wars, when you go down those levels?
Yeah, and they had 50 scripts done, 50 live-action scripts in the bag, ready to go, which, from all accounts, sound pretty amazing. But then he sold it to Disney, and that was that, right? So...
At the end of the day, they just need to retcon it now and just be done with it. That's their only way out, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Right, because it's just bad. I mean, all right. Last Jedi was absolutely shocking, right? But I suppose the other ones were just meh and just not very good.
Yeah, they weren't very inspiring.
Rey's a pretty pointless character, and
you
know, and the truth is, it's, you know, just very disjointed and just not very good, right? Like for me anyway, it's like the best thing that's come out of that is The Mandalorian, and then that's about it really. But even that got stretched out a bit too far because they weren't willing to they weren't. It's hard to say that it's like this woke sort of narrative because it isn't directly. I don't think. I think people freak out a bit too much, but I think underlying that, it's like you know, they don't stick to the central characters.
Yep.
And because they're trying to introduce like extra things and like make it a bit different, or take the edge off it a bit. Like, so for example, the Mandalorians should be really quite brutal.
Should be.
That's probably.
But they're trying to. I mean, I think they're trying to let kids watch it as well, right? So.
Yeah, which is fine, but do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be graphic. It can be like, all right. Think about it like this, yeah. Imagine that apart from when he choked Antilles, right? Okay. Vader was, how he was portrayed, how he was written, was genuinely threatening.
Yep.
Without having to be gory, right?
Vader would force choke people, use words and phrases and turns of the head to really just denote something sinister, as opposed to emo Kylo Ren walking around smashing machinery, throwing a hissy fit, which didn't have the same impact.
Yeah, he's just a muppet. Sorry. He was just a very petulant little chump, really, and who wasn't in control of himself at all.
Yeah.
Which you contrast with, like, and I would say the character of Vader was not particularly clever or, you know, particularly in control, but was in a far more controlled position than Kylo Ren. And of course, you know, Palpatine was the ultimate, like, kind of master of you know, intelligence and evil strategy and rage and all of that. So for me, they've got an easy retcon out, which is the, you know, the space between worlds that was in Rebels. But I don't think they'll do that, because the biggest thing that they did that was wrong was to get rid of Luke.
Get rid of him in that way specifically. Yeah, I don't think that helps.
In that way, like he could have died in like a better way. He couldn't have been a chump when he was in, you know,
Force Awakens,
in The Last Jedi. He was just a total fool.
He was a fool.
Whereas actually, you know, that's one thing in The Mandalorian, like just that 5-minute scene of Luke entering the light cruiser is enough to save Star Wars, because you see like what he is, which is, you know,
well, it's the same,
a complete badass, and actually quite savage as well. Like, he wasn't.
I think he employed some dark side fighting elements to it, right?
So the bit where those like crushing the droid is like a forbidden move in like canon or something, like for the Jedi, and that was the whole thing about Luke, right? Was that actually, because he was left to his own devices, he had to find his own way, and he did use elements that were, you know, inverted commas, un-Jedi-like, but then, you know, so, you know, he would grab and like kind of crush and like choke and like, you know, I think it's something like, you know, using maneuvers to bring them onto the blade. Like, and his whole style was very aggressive, actually.
Well, it's very similar to the scene in Rogue One where Vader appears at the end, and you get to see why he's so feared in the galaxy. You didn't really see it until Rogue One, even though it was, as you said, hinted at, or you saw elements of it. So those are the kinds of scenes. We need more of those types of scenes in Star Wars to try and save it, but we just don't have it.
Yeah, because I think that's the biggest tragedy of all, was actually Luke Skywalker. Because again, people have focused on Vader and Anakin because he was in the prequels, which are the last proper films that came. But actually, because people haven't seen Luke really as a Jedi, like when you read the like Zahn books and all that kind of stuff, he is like, you know, he is like the best
Yeah.
Like he's better than Vader, better than Anakin was.
Yeah, best of the best.
Super strong, like, you know,
he's the Tommy Lee
powerful, and
of the
and raised a new Jedi Order, right? So it's he is kind of, what's the word? He's like that quintessence of like probably what the Jedi were.
Yeah, from back in the day.
Right. And they just completely ruined him, which they took away a major a thing that they could have used, right? So
you know what? One thing I said in my latest video on Skeleton Crew, because I know we talked about that last time, but it might be interesting, at least for me, if Rey is doing a new Jedi Order, maybe she can find Jod and train him to be an actual Jedi. Bring him back.
Yeah,
that'd be good to see Jude Law again.
Again, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you could save Rey, because what you can't do is have her be what she was.
Yeah,
you could have her being. You can have her being a lot older
and wiser,
like, you know, battle worn,
and
wiser,
and a bit vulnerable. Though you need to see a vulnerability to her, because we didn't really see much of that in the first 3 films.
Yeah, she was very cardboard, wasn't she? She was just like, you know, what I would do with her is to have her like that, like 15 years later.
Yeah,
you know, she's lost an arm.
Yeah, she's ready to show what she has.
Kind of maybe a bit Obi-Wan like, in terms of maybe just a bit sort of weary, and but sort of a bit wiser. And I think, and again a massive missed opportunity was Leia. Leia was actually an amazing character in the later stories and stuff, right?
Yep.
And I think Carrie Fisher would have really pulled it off if she was directed properly.
And she's directed properly, and unfortunately, if she was still here with us today. So I mean, rest in peace. She was amazing. Really wanted to see more of her. Look, I think we might have to call it a wrap. You have to get back, right?
Yep, do.
So let's call it an end to this episode. Thanks everyone for joining us. Hope you appreciate the discussion. As usual, please download the podcast and like, share, and subscribe, or tell your friends about it. We love having these chats, regardless of whether anyone's listening, I guess. So
yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Although, welcome.
Yeah, exactly. So catch everyone next time.
Yep. Take care.